It is AM 1160 WCCS and 101.1 FM. And Marshall Chriswell is with us this morning. This program intended for informational purposes only. The information does not constitute legal advice. The law constantly changes. The information may not be complete or correct depending on the date, your particular legal problem. Each legal problem depends on its individual facts, and different jurisdictions have different laws and regulations. Because of that, you should not act or rely on any information in this segment without seeking the advice of a competent attorney licensed to practice law in your jurisdiction for your particular problem. And Marshall Chriswell is one of those licensed attorneys who is more than qualified. Good morning.
Good morning.
It's good to have you with us here today.
Nice to be here.
Let's get out onto the market here, shall we, and take a look around because what we see, in addition to political signs right now, are a lot of for sale signs on Indiana County properties, homes and business sites. There are a lot of business folks and homeowners who are looking to make a move. And let's talk about some of the legal ramifications of real estate law and what some folks need to be aware of should they be in the market to buy or to sell.
Sure, yeah, and you're absolutely right. There are a lot of properties on the market in Indiana County right now. So far, we're just kind of getting into the real estate season. People are looking to make a move, as you said, and we're seeing a lot of movement. As far as sales agreements being put in place and closings.
Yeah.
So, I think it's important as either a seller or a buyer that you get an attorney involved early.
Okay.
I think that would be the number one thing that I'd say. The first thing folks normally do is go to a real estate agent, and that's perfectly fine. That's it's a very important step as well. But a lot of times people don't get an attorney involved until much later in the process. So usually when someone comes to me and says, well, I've got a house that I'm interested in buying, they've already got it under contract. The real estate agents negotiated that. And again, nothing wrong with that, not taking anything away from the good job that real estate agents do. But it's important to have an attorney review that contract before you sign it, just like any other contract.
Sure.
Yeah.
So some of the ramifications of somebody who is a buyer, let's go on to that end of the market first. I'm interested in buying a property. It's a house. I like the looks of it. It's got great curb appeal. But inside, I'm not quite sure. What are some of the issues that are hidden, and what are some of the rights that I have as a buyer of a property in relation to that property?
Sure. I always recommend inspections. I think that's what you're driving at there is what sorts of defects can be at the property that you don't necessarily see just doing a walkthrough and turning on the faucets and taking a look at the furnace and things like that. There are all kinds of potential defects in the systems of the home, or commercial property if that's what we're talking about. Things in the heating and cooling systems, the plumbing, the roof, potential leaking and structural problems, and not to mention radon, which is a big problem in this area. And those are all things that can be identified by a home inspection. Now, a lot of times folks come to me and say, well, we signed an agreement, whether it was with a realtor or a for sale by owner situation, and they've agreed to purchase the property as is with no contingencies for things like a home inspection, radon, pest and termite inspection, things like that. And then they want to go and have those things done, and they don't really have the right to do that, and then back out of the agreement if they find something wrong. So it's important to really think those things through prior to signing a sales agreement.
And certainly when you get into the stage where you're ready to sign a sales agreement, there are other things you need to be aware of in terms of the contract itself.
Sure. You want to give yourself adequate time for closing. I see in a lot of instances that the closing date is not far enough out to give time for the inspections, the title search, and also if this is a home or a business that's being financed by a bank, that there's a significant amount of time that goes into the loan approval and underwriting process that needs to be taken into account whenever closing date's being set. So that's something. And then also the contracts spell out when you can back out of the deal, and when the buyer can back out, when the seller can back out, and what the ramifications are going to be for that. And it can be, well, you're going to lose your deposit, or there can be additional compensation that's due, or consequences. So something again you really need to think about.
If you are a seller of a property, or you're considering selling a property, I'm sure there are many legal things that you want to be sure are tied up before you enter into that whole process.
Sure. Sellers that particularly for sale by owner properties, and we see a lot of those now, more so than in the past, because the marketing, there's a little bit more opportunity when it comes to marketing with the internet than there was in the past. It used to be you had to have a real estate agent to market the property because they had access to the multi-lists that everybody looked at. It's still very, very important, but you see a lot more for sale by owner properties. But the sellers that are doing the for sale by owner, a lot of times they don't think it through. They don't talk to a lawyer beforehand, so they don't necessarily have a sales agreement drawn up, and you end up with what I always call like a back of the napkin agreement. It's okay. It's you just sit down and scratch something out on paper, and everybody signs, and you think that's okay. And usually it's completely inadequate for our purposes. The other thing is there are some legal requirements for sellers as far as making disclosures about any defects that they're aware of on the property. There's a Pennsylvania seller's disclosure law that sets forth all of the different systems of the property and what a seller has to advise a buyer of, or a potential buyer, prior to entering into an agreement or prior to consummating the sale. Even
in our previously discussed as-is type of arrangement?
That's right. It's for residential real estate transactions.
I'm selling it as is. I'm just not telling you everything about it. But even the fact that you're buying as is doesn't relieve any of those obligations.
Right, that law exists to protect sellers in those, or protect buyers in those kinds of transactions where it is an as is sale. But there are, as I said, there are plenty of hidden, what we'd call latent defects on a property, potentially, that a seller, if they lived there for any period of time, would have knowledge of, and they need to disclose that.
Something else that someone might do in order to get around having to be affiliated with a realtor or some other type of agency is they might say, well, I've got this generic form I found online. And I can just fill that out. As long as I do that, then everything's cool.
Right.
And I think that goes back to when we were talking about different jurisdictions, doesn't it?
Well, it does. Sometimes it's a general form that somebody's posted online, and a lot of times with real estate, it's some real estate investor or somebody that has a website and throws something up there, and people decide they're going to use it. I've seen people use real estate contracts from other states. They'll go online and find, this is a sample realtor's agreement, and we'll use that. And then we look at it and realize it's from Maryland or somewhere, and it's it doesn't really fit our situation. So it's again, and we've talked about this multiple times, that this online do-it-yourself lawyering. I spend a lot of time fixing those problems. That's so, and it always costs you more in the end if there's an issue.
Yeah. We're talking with Marshall Chriswell. The segment is called Marshall Law, and if somebody wants to learn more about what's going on in terms of real estate law or some of the issues they need to know about, certainly they can get in touch with you, and we'll give that information in just a few moments. But we've talked about the buyer. We've talked about the seller. There's also the issue of, and you mentioned this a little bit earlier, the title search. Some people, when they get into the idea of, I'm going to sell this house that I inherited from somebody, they're really not aware of what's on the actual title.
Yeah, that's true. And that that kind of gets to what do we do at our office. A lot of times people will say, well, the realtor seems to be the one responsible for this transaction. What's the attorney even do? So what services we offer as far as let's say from a buyer's perspective is a full title search. And so in Pennsylvania, that means going back at least at a minimum of 60 years plus one owner and reviewing every document of record, as well as Prothonotari's records, judgments, potential liens, municipal liens, taxes, all of that, to make sure that there's nothing outstanding. And you'd be amazed at what kinds of things you find. I mean, not every home or business property has title issues, but there's a significant number of them that do, because 40, 50, 60 years ago, people didn't pay as close attention as to what documents were recorded and whether an old mortgage was satisfied of record at the courthouse and things like that. And those are things that have to be cleared up. So that's important, and that's the largest part of the service that we offer for our real estate transactions. But also we negotiate agreements of sale. And then once the title search and everything is clear, we also prepare all the documents for closing, work hand in hand with the lender to prepare disclosures of closing costs, and then actually conduct the closing.
Yeah.
So
something just popped into my head. We only have a couple of moments left, but I thought I'd give you a shot at just a couple of comments on it. Nowadays, there is a new issue that has cropped up. That is mine subsidence. And when you're buying, I would think that you would need to be aware, and that might be something to add to the checklist if you're considering buying a home, is checking into the possibility of the ground underneath that home being mined and possible sinkholes opening up, those sorts of things.
Yeah, and again, that's difficult. There are records of where deep mines were in the area, obviously, but not every property that's affected. You're not going to be able to always know that. So that's difficult. In Pennsylvania, basically what Pennsylvania law says about mine subsidence is that you can't go back to a previous owner or to the operator, to the coal company, and hold them responsible for damage to your property from subsidence. So what you need to do, if you have any concern that there may be subsidence, we want to have a specific insurance policy or a rider on your homeowner's insurance policy for that.
Okay.
And that's something that we always talk about.
Yeah. All right. How do people get in touch with you to learn more?
I'm in the Atrium Building, downtown Indiana. You can call at 724-465-5826 or online at www.westernpalawyer.com.
He's Marshall Chriswell. Thanks so much. It's Indiana in the Morning on AM 1160 WCCS and 101.1 FM. Fox News is up next.